Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We all know that life is a choice. Everything we do, we have the freedom to choose what you do in the next 5 seconds. You made a choice. The next 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, you made a choice. Everything is a choice. Why do we make the choices we do make? And what directs us to make those choices? How do you decide whether to decide on this or on that? We're going to delve into that today with and by the way, thanks for making the choice to watch and listen to us today. Appreciate that. You made the right choice because he's an educator, an inspirational speaker, success consultant, life coach, best-selling author, and he's back with us. Dr. Bary Fleet is on the program. Bary, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, Steve. I'm good. How are you doing?
Terrific. And I'm loving this topic because it's the baseline for life. We have choices to make. Sometimes we wrestle with them. Sometimes fear gets in the way of making a choice or maybe making the right choice. But where does this all begin? How do we make decisions on the choice that we make?
So some of the decisions we make just based on how I'm feeling in the moment. And sometimes those are good choices, but oftentimes if I make a decision solely based on how I'm feeling in the moment, it often ends me up in a place I don't want to be. Small example. My wife is much more disciplined than I am about going to the gym. And she likes to go first thing in the morning. And she'll get up and she'll say, Bary, you want to go to the gym? And sometimes I'll say yes. And sometimes I'll say, no, I'm really not up for it. I want to finish my cup of coffee and, just be here.
Mm-hmm.
And what I know is I have never regretted the choice to go to the gym.
Okay.
I have often regretted choosing not to go.
Understood.
So that's what I'm saying. When I make a choice purely on how I'm feeling, it often isn't the best choice. And what matters is, when you say, how do you make the right choice? I think it has to do with thinking about the kind of person I want to be, the way I'd like to define myself, thinking about where I want to end up. What's my goal? Where am I going? And is the decision to sit and finish my coffee going to get me where I want to go? Or is the decision to go to the gym going to get me where I want to go?
Well, let's look at that because both feel good in the moment. I totally got you. Today, I was going to go to the gym early. And then I realized, I have an opening in my schedule. I'm going to go later. I did go later. Unfortunately, I took a phone call before that lasted much longer, so they cut my gym time. But I feel like I made the impact I needed to make. I squeezed a lot of power into a short period of time.
Sure.
But, to your point, I've done the same exact thing. Like, I'm having this cup of coffee, looking at some stuff online, preparing for the day. Seems more fun at the moment. How do you look at that choice moving forward? Do you look at the end result? Well, if I go to the gym, I'm going to feel better than I'm going to feel with this cup of coffee, but this cup of coffee feels really good at this moment. You're kind of stuck in the middle, right?
Well, again, it's tomorrow, a week from now, a year from now. Where do I want my life to be? And is sitting there holding that nice warm cup of coffee going to get me where I want to be tomorrow or the next day? Maybe. It may be that I'm in a place where just sitting and relaxing and having a cup of coffee is the best choice for me in the moment, for me to be the best version of me going forward.
Should you ask that question, what your end goal is? Because yes, you could hang with that cup of coffee and have some deep thought. You could come up with a brilliant idea or just ideas. And wow, that could serve your future as well. It is a challenge. I'm trying to look at both sides.
It is. So William Glasser, a psychiatrist, did a lot of his work back in the 60s, actually. But he was invited by the Chicago school system because there was such a huge problem with high school dropouts in the Chicago school system.
Mm.
And they invited him to come in and take a look at things and see if he could figure out how to change the trend and get more kids to hang in and finish. And so he went in and he started interviewing these high school kids, these kids that were in danger of dropping out. And his question to them was, where do you want to be 5 years from now? And they would often talk about, I want to have a job, I want to have a family, I want this, I want that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so how is dropping out of high school going to help you get there? In the real world, to get where you say you want to go, you're going to need that high school diploma. And it may not be fun, and the things that the teachers ask you to do might not make any sense to you. It might seem ridiculous, but to get where you want to go, you've got to jump through the hoops that somebody else has set up.
Mm.
And that's what I'm talking about, is a lot of times we make decisions because we're in a state of discomfort. And we choose a way to end the discomfort, when in reality, as silly as it seems, embracing the discomfort and working through it is going to put me in a much better place in my life.
So I'm gathering from this, really, it is the looking down the road. What is your ultimate goal? Your short-term goal, using the Jim Coffee example, short-term goal is, wow, relaxing. I just woke up. I want to slowly ramp into the day. That is a goal. But long-term, looking better, shedding some pounds, whatever it might be, that doesn't support that.
Exactly. I don't know if you're familiar with David Goggins. His latest book is called Never Finished. And part of his story is, so he ended up being a trainer for the Navy SEALs, for the Air Force Rangers. But he failed when he was first trying to become a Navy SEAL. And he talks about how in the moment it was painful. And so he decided he'd rather end the pain. And then he dropped out and then felt awful about himself because he didn't have the wherewithal, or didn't choose to tap into the wherewithal to get where he wanted to go. And so he went back and he thought, no, this is a goal for me. This is something that I really want to do. And whatever they throw at me, I'm going to endure because it's what I want to do. So when we think about the kind of man we want to be, the kind of person we want to be, where we want to end up in life, there are choices to make that will either get me there or get me away from there. I want to talk to my students on campus. There's only one entrance in the campus where I teach. And I say, okay, so when class is over and I get in my car to go home, I'm going to come out to the highway. Should I turn right or should I turn left? What's the right decision? Because I see people doing both. And they'll give one answer or another. And I said, actually, there's not a wrong decision. One, if I turn right, I'm going to get home a lot faster. If I turn left, I can still get home, but it'll take me a lot longer and be a lot more inconvenient.
Sure.
So when we know where we want to go, when we know where we want to end up, that helps us make choices that will get me there. What happens to a lot of us, I think, is, and we've talked about this in other times that we talk, we often don't think about where I want to end up. We just get up and we do the day, and we get up tomorrow and do that day, and we get up and do that day, and then 5, 10, 15, 20 years pass, and we say, how did I end up here? It was because of all the choices I made every day to not think about where I wanted to be 20 years from now or 10 years from now. It's the same kind of thing. I deal with in my practice. I deal with a number of folks who where the issue of infidelity comes up, and invariably, being intimate with the person present feels good in the moment. It feels much more supportive, all kinds of good feelings. But then I have to deal with the consequences of that down the road.
Guilt, dishonesty, all of that. And I've had this conversation recently with a bunch of friends in different shapes and forms. And we've digression here, but we've come up to the thought that a lot of times it isn't the person wasn't the person didn't cheat because they weren't getting what they wanted from the relationship. They could have if they worked on it or verbalized it or communicated it better. And it takes two right there. They did it because there's issues in their life from way back that they haven't resolved.
Often that's true. And then the question becomes, so with the issues in my past, what's the best way to resolve it? And being unfaithful in my relationship doesn't really get me there.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, that's a choice.
It compounds the thing. And often when sometimes I am fortunate enough to deal with folks when they're contemplating unfaithfulness.
Mm.
And I say, so before you do, ask yourself, how is this going to end? Because it will. It will end. Maybe it ends in marriage. Maybe it ends in divorce. Maybe it ends in a really nasty legal battle.
Or it just ends in a week, 2, 3 months, whatever it may be.
Right. But again, to think about the consequences of my choice.
Yes.
And I think that's where we often fail, is we make the choice based on how we're feeling instead of making the choice based on the consequences.
Or the end result.
Or the end result.
Like not going to the gym and having coffee, you're not going to see the body you maybe expect because that's the end result. The results.
Exactly.
Hmm. What do we process when we make a decision? Isn't there a number of different things that we think about?
Sometimes
I thought you had mentioned that where it's things that we go through our mind when we make a decision. Process of elimination. You want to be loved. You want to feel power. What are some of those things?
Well, as I mentioned, William Glasser in his choice theory says that genetically we are programmed to pursue 5 different things.
Okay.
One is to survive. One is the feeling of love and belonging, a connection. One is a sense of power. One is a sense of freedom. And the last is fun. And one of the reasons I like his theory is because he does include fun as a basic need.
I like that too. Because when you think about it, if it's not fun, why would you pick it?
Yeah. You'd be amazed at the number of clients that come into me and I say, so tell me what you do for fun. And it's like I hit them with the baseball bat and they're stunned and they can't think of anything that they're doing for fun.
I believe that was one of the first podcasts that we did together. We talked about that. How do you define fun? What is it? Everybody's got a different take on it. But if you can't define what fun is, you might have a problem there in your life.
And it has to do with experience. Am I experiencing fun? And you're right that defining fun, it really is an individual thing. Because what is fun for one person is not for another.
And isn't it also, you can't define fun if you've never had it. So, for example, somebody might say, well, fun for me is riding my bike. Well, if you've never ridden your bike before, how would you know it's fun? So, isn't it things that you've done before, the experience?
Sure. When I look back over my life, when do I look back and say, oh, that was fun. I was having fun then. And maybe for some of us, it was back when we were 5 or 6 years old and playing with our friends in the backyard. But at some point, I think we all have had experiences that were fun.
Yep.
And to your point, there may be lots of other things out there that if I were exposed to, I would put them into my loop of, hey, this is fun too.
Of course. You might say something to me and I might think that sounds like fun. I got to try that.
Yeah. This past week, my grandchildren decided to try hang gliding because they thought that would be fun. For some people, that would be terrifying.
Sure.
Um, but but pursuing fun is kind of genetically programmed into us.
So to get back to these five core, I guess, values of a decision, there would you say they're all genetically connected?
Um, when you say genetically connected,
Well, you
they're
just
all
said fun is has a genetic, it sounded like a genetic connection.
yeah. So genetically, we're programmed
Programmed.
to pursue to survive. We're
Right.
genetically programmed to connect, to feel love and belonging.
Yep.
We're genetically programmed to experience power. You know, the most prominent word of a 2-year-old is no.
Yeah,
But that's asserting power.
exactly.
And the other one is freedom. No, none of us like to be told what to do. We like to have a sense that we're making our own choices.
These are all real. Same thing with fun. That why do we do what we do? More times than not, of course, work should be fun. Things should be fun. If they're not, then you're not going to do them. There's a reason.
Or we will do them and we will go through life miserable.
Well, then there's that. Right.
And you and I both know people that have made that choice.
Sure. And again, that's a choice.
It is a choice, but that's the good news is that we always have a choice. In every moment, I have a choice. And if I'm having an experience I don't like, I have a choice.
Hmm.
What am I going to do? And and what choice can I make that will put me in a place where I'd like to be long term? Not where I not the choice I'd like to be 5 minutes from now or 10 minutes from now, but a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, where would I like to be? And a lot of times those choices are the uncomfortable ones. Um, I've been taught ever since the first of the year. I've been saying I need to lose 10 pounds, and and I know how to do it because I've done it so many times.
Hmm.
But I get started, and then something is really appealing that doesn't fit with losing 10 pounds, but it tastes so good,
Yeah,
and I indulge so much
because it's fun.
because it's fun, it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
My point is sometimes we have to deprive ourselves of those moments of pleasure in order to have the experience of really feeling good about who I am.
Do you feel when somebody's faced with a decision that they need to look at it in all situations? I'm trying to process this. In all situations, that they need to look at the long term, the future, to help them make that decision.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that at some point it's critical for us to decide where do I want to end up in my life? And then we construct a life that gets us there. And then when we have choices to make, it's much easier to decide, yeah, this might be fun in the moment, this might feel good in the moment, but it's not ultimately going to get me where I want to go. So I need to forego this temporary pleasure in exchange for the long-term sense of satisfaction about who I am.
Well, you have a game plan. Now your future has defined the direction or the blueprint or the plan, and now you need to navigate according to that plan to get to the end result, whatever the end result is.
Right.
Hmm.
But what I think happens to so many of us is we fail to make that long-term plan. Our our thinking is very short term, and it's just what do I need to do today, and we get through today. What do I need to get done this week, and we get done that. And it's like We're
Mm.
not looking ahead. We're just looking at the step that's in front of us.
Well, interestingly, we often say, don't live in the future, don't live in the past, live in the present. And a lot of times for a lot of people, life is better. It's better because you don't have depression from the past, you don't have anxiety from the future. But this kind of breaks the mold there because I have tried to make my life so I live in the present because I used to do this out here. However, in making choices, future choices for your future as well, you do have to look at the long term.
I need to think about where I want to end up in life. Um, and once I have that in mind, then I live in the present, making each small choice in such a way that it gets me down the path that leads to where I want to end up. So I'm not waiting until something. I'm experiencing each moment. But in every step, I can either step in the direction that leads me where I want to go, or I can step in a direction that doesn't let me go where I want to end up.
Hmm.
So I'm living in the present, but I'm doing it mindfully.
I see your point. I do. It makes it clearer. It's unfortunate that it can be painful because you have to make decisions. If you're going to stick to your end goal, you have to make certain decisions that are going to gravitate you in that eventual direction, and they may not be easy decisions to make.
Absolutely. One of the things about choices, sometimes choices are hard because the choices in front of me, neither one is a pleasant choice. You might remember Sophie's Choice, the movie years ago.
Hmm.
Um, so I've got two bad choices, but I've got to make one. Sometimes choices are difficult because they're both two good choices. So I won the lottery. Do I want to take the lump sum or do I want to take so much a month for the rest of my life?
But if you take the lump sum, then you have to pay taxes immediately on that, and so there's
Yeah, but
there's both ways.
but and sometimes it's easy because one choice is good and one is bad, and it's pretty obvious which it is.
Right.
But the ones that get us in trouble, I think, are the ones where neither choice is an especially good one.
Hmm.
It's just the necessary one. That Does that resonate with you at all?
Totally. There, and I'm thinking of a choice that I have to make soon. and
Okay.
and I was thinking about it all day today, and you just made it come clear. Not even kidding.
Okay.
And it's not an easy choice to make, but it is the right choice. But I also believe that a lot of us know the answer. We already have it. I always say everything you need is within you. It's there.
It is.
But sometimes you don't want to listen to it.
Or look for it.
Well, because you know if you look for it, you're going to find it, and that's going to
Right.
be the answer that you really didn't want. Um, but it's staring you subconsciously. It's staring you in the face. It's
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you know the right answer here.
And that's why in some schools of therapy, um, we don't ever suggest to a person what they ought to do. Because who am I to know what is the right choice for you? I know that you know, and I'm going to relate to you in such a way that you're going to feel my confidence in your ability to make a good choice, that you tap into the choice that is in your ultimate best interest.
Sure. Yeah. It's like giving you the keys to your inner workings. Here you
Yes,
I've just opened the door for you. Now you have to step in and just see what's going on there, you know, metaphorically speaking. Um, when you have to make a choice, are you thinking the long term or are you first hearing what's inside you and letting that guide you?
um, I think the voice inside me is always trying to speak. Sometimes I turn the volume down, as you say, because I don't want to hear it,
Hmm. Yeah.
because I know what it's going to say. Um, and sometimes I've turned the volume down. I think the voice is gone, and that's where it's important to give myself some space of quiet time to let the voice come out. But the voice is always there, and it's always ready to direct us in the direction that is in our ultimate best interest. When I'm tuned into that, I make good choices.
Yeah.
When I'm not tuned into it, it's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, and usually it's the wrong choice. I found that if it's telling you what the answer is and you don't listen to it, it's probably going to be an incorrect choice or
Absolutely.
truly not in your best interest.
Absolutely. I mean, the little inner voices. I mean, you've also had the experience where some little voice in you said, "You need to do this. You need to do that." And when we do that, we're always glad we did. When we say, not right now, we almost always resent it. I'm thinking now of a time that really stands out for me when I was a pastor and one of my members was in the hospital, and there was a voice that said, "Bary, go to the hospital this morning and see him." And I thought, you know what? I'm going to be near the hospital this afternoon. I'm not going to make a special trip now. And I waited until the afternoon when it was convenient. And I walked into the room literally 30 seconds after they had removed the person's body.
Wow. You knew?
I knew, but I chose convenience over the voice.
And I can think back many times over decades where I made an incorrect choice. One was, I would say 25 years ago. And I'm holding my 3-year-old daughter in front of a field about to have a house built. I had just left another one and plans look great. Everything looked great. Victorian, nice porch, the whole deal. And my gut was saying, this is a bad idea. There's the builder we're talking. It's a bad idea. And sure enough, 2 years later, I was getting divorced. So, I should have listened. But at that moment, things get in the way. You're so far into it that it's hard to get out of it at that moment. But I could tell you the angle of the sun, what month it was, all of it, all of it. And because the gut was saying, this is what and what didn't I listen to? The long term.
Right.
What we're talking about today. Great talk. We're out of time.
Really?
Yes, we are.
Boy, that went by in a hurry.
It really did. Best way to find you if anybody is wrestling with some decisions or this seems logical in terms of navigating their life. And you even shared before, sometimes you work with on a coaching level with couples and even things like even infidelity and things like that. Your website is your name. Please share.
It is www.drbaryfleet, DRBARYFLEET.com. Go to my website. You can see a link to my TED Talk. You can get a link to buy my book. You can get a link to be in touch with me. You get my email. You get my cell phone. If you want to reach out and talk to me, shoot me an email. Let's talk. Make the choice.
This happens whenever we get together because we both have an affinity for music, but another song just dropped in my head. And it's Boston, and it's called Peace of Mind. And it's a great song. I believe it was from their second album in the 70s, mid to late 70s. And the line in the song basically says, we always deal with indecision. The chorus goes, take a look ahead. And that's what we're talking about today.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. Time to look up those lyrics. Bary, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.